Hello, I'm Phaedra and we're coming up to our 4th year growing flowers and our 4th year purchasing flowers from a wholesaler. The question I get asked the most is, what is the price on this stem? I get private messages about this all the time, and so I'm going to make this video so that everyone can work out what that price is, because it does differ. The price I'm paying for flowers or charging for my flowers could be very different to, well, it will be very different to what you may be charging in your area. So here are my 5 ways to find pricing for your cut flowers. Resource number 1, a local florist. You can try your luck asking local florists if they would be happy to help you price your wholesale flowers. All florists have access to wholesale price lists. That's how they manage their purchasing of flowers. They have to know what it costs so that they can do accurate quotes and order in exactly what they need. I have had feedback that some florists are giving lower prices and really lowballing the stem count, I guess, so that they can get a cheaper price. If you're still interested in working with that florist and you've decided you're okay with that pricing, or you don't know what pricing is yet, you can set up minimum orders to make it a bit more worth your while. And when you're selling wholesale, you are selling in bulk. That is the deal that you get for getting a cheaper price for buying in wholesale, that you're buying a larger quantity. So that's something that you can work out what your minimum buy is or what your minimum stem count is, something like that, so that it's actually worth the trouble of you preparing these flowers to deliver to these florists. Florists will likely also prioritize sellers who are properly cutting and conditioning for the best vase life. Sometimes as farmers, we have this idea that just because the flowers are picked fresh from our farm and sold straight away, we have the impression that that gives them the best vase life, and that's just not always the case. You need to learn the correct time of day to pick your flowers, how to condition them, what solution to condition in, if any, how long to rest them, and how to cool down your flowers. I'm going to be doing another video on conditioning flowers in a little bit, so keep an eye out for that. In saying this, there are some blooms that just don't travel well. The petals can get really crushed because they actually pack them quite tightly to transport, and they get wrapped, and some blooms just don't cope very well with that. And some blooms have such a short vase life that by the time they've been in transit for a couple of days and then sat in a wholesaler in a cool room, they've lost majority of their vase life, and I'm talking about dahlias for that. So there are, when you're asking a local florist for pricing, there's some other things to take into consideration with particular flowers, and you'll have to learn which flowers travel well and which don't in your area. Number 2 is wholesalers. When we originally started flower farming, we went around to local florists and asked them would they be interested in purchasing our flowers. And we didn't go to all of them because we got so discouraged, because the ones we did go to just flat out said no. It actually worked out to be a really good thing for us because it pushed us into selling retail, which means we ran our business all year. We didn't just sell in our growing season, we sell all year round. And when our flowers are out of season and we can't grow very much or can't grow at all, we purchase from a wholesaler, which has been really handy, because if you've followed us along on our vlog, we had a terrible season last season and almost nothing grew, but it meant we could keep our business running and continue to keep bringing in an income. I'll share another video soon about selling flowers wholesale versus retail. But for the purpose of this video, for pricing flowers, if you can access some wholesale price listings, especially for your area, that's going to help you a lot. Because we've been growing flowers and purchasing flowers for some time now, it's given us a really good grasp on the worth of flowers and how those prices fluctuate through the year. For example, a sunflower in winter is going to cost way more than a sunflower in summer. And the sunflowers at the wholesaler are costing a lot more than the sunflower prices at the farm gate locally. If you're growing flowers and you'd like to supplement with wholesale flowers, make contact with your nearby wholesalers, flower wholesalers, or the flower market, and set up an account. Regularly buy flowers to supplement the flowers that you're growing. And if you're already selling the flowers, you're going to be able to sell these wholesale flowers, because it's actually going to help you learn the pricing. It's going to help you learn what things are worth how to mark up, which I'm going to do another video on. I have an old video on it. I'm going to do an updated one. But the other thing it's going to teach you by going to the wholesaler is, what do these flowers look like when the florists are getting them? How they're presented, what kind of vase life is left in them. You're going to see firsthand what the florists are used to, and if your goal is to be selling wholesale to florists, it's going to be a really, really good education around that. I haven't done any flower courses to compare with, but I really feel like buying flowers from the wholesaler and learning about that and working with those and then on selling those has been a really, really good education. The third resource is other local flower farmers. And it may seem a little bit intrusive to be asking other flower farmers how much they're selling their flowers for, but the value in it is if everybody in the area has similar pricing. I'm not saying it has to be the same, but similar pricing. There's no longer a price war going on, and florists just sort of know that this is the farm gate sales price. And you can then focus on other things like the conditioning of flowers and what you're growing and the varieties and the stem length. And those are the attributes that are going to set you apart from other farms. And if you're growing varieties that others aren't growing and colours that others aren't growing, or the flowers that aren't travelling well. In our area, we have a Facebook group for flower farmers. We try to have regular meetups, maybe once every 3 months. So in your area, if you don't have a Facebook group you can join for flower farming, maybe think about starting one and think about floating the topic of flower pricing and the value that that's going to give you as a grower to not have to worry about that anymore, focus on it. And then you can all go off and focus on the other things that are just as important in flower farming. Number 4 is publications. If you type into Google, cut flower price list, and then your area, you're going to come up with a whole heap of search results. And some of those are going to be area search results, some may be state and some may be nationwide. There may be some price lists listed there for public to view. There may be some that you have to pay for to access. So in Australia, there's a newspaper called The Land, and it releases a list of all the flowers and their price range of, just off the absolute top of my head, I'm not saying that this is what it is, but it might say, I'll go sunflowers again, sunflowers, 5 stems, it might say $8 to $15. So it can be a pretty broad price range. In my area, because we're up in the country, we're going to be on the top end of that scale. I searched cut flower price list USA, and it came up with the Agricultural Marketing Service from the USDA, a whole list of flowers just like that one from The Land. So there seems to be sort of a nationwide one over there in the US, and it's got the broad ranges of things as well. So you will need to learn to adjust to your area, but it is a really easy benchmark. Like if you're just getting started and you don't want to have to deal with any of this at all, and you're quite happy to not worry too much about profit in your first year or whatever, you could just price everything on the lower end of that scale, and you've got your price list sorted. As you get better at this, you can then readjust. You can use some of these other resources I've talked about and get better and better and better at pricing your flowers, and then work towards making actual real profit. The other thing to factor in is, especially for places like where I am, whatever the price lists are coming out of the cities, we also have to factor in a shipping fee, because we're having flowers trucked 4 hours inland to get to us, and there is a cost associated with that. So that is going to be one of the reasons why flowers cost more in some areas than they do in others. The info is out there. Go and do a search, sit down, spend some time and go and find it. The 5th idea is mentoring. When we first started out flower farming and selling our flowers, we were on YouTube already. So right back in the beginning, we had our YouTube channel, and a florist from up in Cairns saw us and felt sorry for us and contacted me and offered to mentor us on the florist side of things, which has been absolutely amazing. It's been that push to get things done when you just need a cheerleader behind you to say, just do it, just do it, just do it. It's okay, don't be scared. And somebody to bounce ideas off, somebody to just say, hey, what's your price on this up there? But the key to this being successful is find a mentor who is not in your area and not your competition. It is going to be really, really hard for somebody to be completely open and honest with you and really cheer you on if they're in the same area as you and they're your competition or they become your competition. And I'm saying that honestly because while anybody in this area is watching what I'm sharing, I only ever share publicly what I want everybody to know. And I share a lot of stuff. So reach out to somebody that you really look up to, but not the florist down the road who might want to help you, but really probably can't help you that much because they're not going to tell you all their business secrets. And I know that some of you want me to mentor you, and while I don't have a mentoring program, I do have a tier on Patreon for mentoring. If you're interested, I will leave a link in the description of this video if you'd have a look. There are my 5 resources to help you price your flowers. I'm working on putting out more free resources to help you with this, so subscribe to keep up to date. See ya.